Hi guys, Dr. Caudill here, the parent doctor. I'm excited to be talking to you today about kids and money. And this discussion will be based on two books that I've read recently. The first is called The Opposite of Spoiled by Ron Lieber, and the second is called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. First off, in The Opposite of Spoiled, Ron Lieber does a great job of guiding us as parents in how we converse with our kids about the topic of money. He definitely encourages us to give our kids opportunities to handle money, to be responsible for their own money, and to see what the consequences feel like of spending, saving, or giving away money while they're under our care. My biggest takeaways from the book were a couple of things. He gave this wonderful example of his father when he was a teenager, bringing home a boatload of money and just dumping the cash on the dining room table. And he says that he and his older sister were there. And of course, their eyes were wide because they'd never seen so much cash at once. But his father then said, "Look, kids, this is how much your mother and I earn in a month. And I'm going to show you where all the money goes." And then he literally showed them, this is the mortgage bill. And this is all the money that goes to that. This is the electric bill. This is all the money that goes to that. This is how much we spend on food. This is how much we spend on the car and the gas and the insurance, et cetera, until in the end, the kids saw this large pile of money really become a pretty small sum for a family of four to handle for the rest of the month. I think this is such a powerful tool. And I can't imagine any parents that I know really going through that with their kids. But I think we should, absolutely. Now, obviously, we're not going to talk with our young kids who don't yet know sort of what's private information versus what's public information about details of our income. But with our teenage kids, when they're older and more mature, I think we absolutely could and should discuss with them how much we earn and where the money goes and how we make those choices and get their input on it too, because soon enough, they're going to be adults. They're going to be facing credit card applications when they go off to school. They're going to have to manage their own income and debt ratios. And we need to prepare them for that and to think about what things cost so that they can be ready to earn money on their own and spend money on their own and save money on their own. Another point Mr. Lieber makes in his book is that kids should absolutely have access to money while they remain minors under our care. And for this, I highly recommend that parents start giving their kids an allowance. I also recommend that this allowance not be tied to good grades, not be tied to doing chores, and not be something that can be taken away. It should be something that is just a given for your child that they get for being themselves, and they should get it every week. It shouldn't be an excessive amount of money, nothing that's going to get them into trouble, but it should be enough that if they save that money over a month, they should be able to buy something that would really be meaningful to them. Now, for my own son, we started giving him an allowance when he was 8. He's very mature. He's also a natural saver. We let him get $5 a week cash initially, but then we later tallied it up just on an envelope because I didn't usually have cash on hand. And unbeknownst to him, I also opened a savings account for him where each week I put $5 in there. So on his 9th birthday, he got the nice surprise of seeing what $5 a week looks like after you leave it alone for a whole year. And since then, he has decided to just leave the savings account alone. He's now 10 and a half. And I think last time I checked, there was over $700 in there with the interest it's earned. So he's doing pretty well. He's got a nice little nest egg. My daughter, on the other hand, is 6. Now, she will spend money like it's candy, literally, and most of it goes to candy and other shiny baubles. She's very much driven by what captures her interest in the moment, and she doesn't yet understand the concept at all of waiting for something. So I know that that's a skill we have to work on with her in terms of delayed gratification and saving to get something she really wants in the future. She's very cute and adorable, and she knows how to work her charms, but I really need to teach her the lesson. So I know that she's not ready yet for an allowance. She wrote me a persuasive essay recently in kindergarten about why she should get one. And I praised her for her effort and her wonderful essay, but I told her she's not getting an allowance yet, maybe when she's 8. But I definitely encourage you to decide on your own with conversations with friends or other people who know your children well to determine when you think they're old enough and mature enough to get an allowance and what the amount of that allowance should be. So one reason we should definitely think about money when it comes to our kids is that they have the power of time on their side. We need to educate ourselves about the power of compound interest over time and educate our children so that they can utilize this to their advantage. If this doesn't get you off your butt to go start a side hustle and employ your children, I don't know what will. Let me give you a few numbers here. If you started a side hustle and employed your child and set aside $500 a month of their earnings into a Roth IRA from the ages of 12 to 18, Guess how much money that would grow to by the time they're 65, even if they made no additional contributions to a retirement account. So keep in mind, the total investment was 6 years of $6,000 a year, so $36,000 between ages 12 and 18. By the time that child reaches age 65, they're going to have a whopping $483,926.50 in their IRA. Now, if your side hustle is more lucrative and you're able to pay your child a higher salary and you can give them $1,000 a month for 6 years, in 47 years, they're going to have $967,853. Wow, that would be amazing, right? So if you teach your child about this, it will also really incentivize them to save from a young age, because the longer that they leave their savings, the more they're going to have at the end. Next, I'd like to talk about the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. He is a journalist who wrote extensively about the financial crisis that occurred after 2008. And that crisis made him realize that there's so much about financial behaviors and financial outcomes that we don't know. There's a big chance aspect in what happens in economics and finance. And so much of what we do with our money is emotionally driven, not really rationally driven. And this book is an amazing read about many examples of how people behaved with regard to money, the decisions that we make about money, what we think we know versus what's really the case. And I loved it. I read it over and over again, and I find new things every time I read it. If you have an older child, I would highly recommend reading The Psychology of Money with them before they go off and away to school and out of your house, because it will help them think about money. I'm going to read to you one of the clips from the book that I found especially pertinent to us as parents. Give me 1 second. All right. He said, "Be careful who you praise and admire. Be careful who you look down upon and wish to avoid becoming. Or just be careful when assuming that 100% of outcomes can be attributed to effort and decisions. After my son was born, I wrote him a letter that said, in part, some people are born into families that encourage education. Others are against it. Some are born into flourishing economies encouraging of entrepreneurship. Others are born into war and destitution. I want you to be successful, and I want you to earn it. But realize that not all success is due to hard work, and not all poverty is due to laziness. Keep this in mind when judging people, including yourself." How beautiful is that, right? I mean, I think especially as Americans, we do put so much value on wealth and showing and displaying wealth. We tend to have opinions of people who display wealth or have a lot of wealth. They may be positive opinions, they may be negative opinions. But we have feelings about it because we think that it means something. And it doesn't always mean the thing that we think it means, just as poverty doesn't always mean the thing that we think it means. So I think it's important to teach our kids about money so that they can recognize that who they are and their self and their identity is not tied to money, but that if they want money, it doesn't make them a bad person. And if they accumulate money, they'll have more opportunities. Because I think all of us as parents, if we could choose whether our kids are financially successful or if they end up financially destitute, we would rather have them be financially successful, right? We want them to be comfortable and to have options. And in order to do that, they need to believe in themselves and they need to persevere, because there will be things in their life that they can control and others that they can't. But as long as they keep working, they will succeed. Here's another great quote from The Psychology of Money. At a party given by billionaire on Shelter Island, Kurt Vonnegut informs his pal, Joseph Heller, that their host, a hedge fund manager, had made more money in a single day than Heller had earned from his wildly popular novel, Catch-22, over its whole history. Heller responds, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." Enough. I was stunned by the simple eloquence of that word, stunned for 2 reasons. First, because I have been given so much in my own life, and second, because Joseph Heller couldn't have been more accurate. For a critical element in our society, including many of the wealthiest and most powerful among us, there seems to be no limit today on what enough entails. Now, I think this is very important because it gets to this concept that's tied to money and wealth, which is success, especially financial success, does not equal fulfillment. And actually, financial success achieved without personal fulfillment is failure. It's the ultimate failure. And I think this is extremely important to teach our children because we want them to be successful financially, sure, but much more important than that is that they are successful internally, that they feel aligned and connected to who they truly are and their purpose, and that their work is driving them towards that purpose. And that comes first, because fulfillment without wealth is okay. Your child can be okay. Wealth without fulfillment, your child will not be emotionally okay.